Mario,
Walter.
I don't think he's coming on. The game is too interesting. A game is on for the
Oh,
Who's winning?
it's a time game. Otani just hit a home run out of the ballpark, the big time. It was 4-5, and they were losing 5-4, and now it's 5-4. Harold.
Hi, Walter. Hi.
Yeah, I mean,
hi guys.
He comes up, he just whacks the ball like that. Hello, Mario, stop the recording.
Why?
Yeah, because
There may be Toronto Blue.
Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
Otani just hit his second home run.
Ooh. Is it still 5-5 or that tied it?
Tied it.
That tied it.
It's unbelievable that Tony just gets up.
We've never seen
Dirty
anybody.
as money, tell them.
We've
I
never
can
seen,
hear you.
Oh.
even Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays. They didn't do that. They didn't come through like this. It's unbelievable. Okay, we're on Mendalid, 44.
Can you put your earphones so I don't hear?
Yeah.
Im loinemu chamuros. If the Torah would not have written the more stringent tumah, which is tumas meis, hayisi omer la chamuris b'misa. Why would we say that the tumas meis who eats truma gets misa? Because if tumas meis was not mentioned, mituma sheretz ka'asya. The source would have been tumas sheretz, and tumas sheretz is only a malchus. The dayer lavon adin lios kenidin. We're going to learn something from Kavach Chomer. There's a principle that you can't give a punishment more than from where you're learning it from. So if the Kavach Chomer starts from tumas sheretz, where the punishment is only malchus, you're not going to be able to give the punishment of misa. So Omer Zeiri, kalos is tumas sheretz. The lenient tumah that the Torah is talking about is being contaminated with sheretz tumah. Chamuras indeed is tumas meis. V'hochi kamer, this is how you have to understand how the Torah is teaching. Ilu nemar tumas sheretz. The nemar meiser, that the nemar meiser truma, if the person who's contaminated with tumas sheretz eats meiser, that's a lav. You get malchus. And if you eat tumas sheretz, you get misa. And it was silent bichlal v'lo nemra tumas meis, and not discussed misa tuma. Hayu soimer kalois ala kalois. That means the kal of tuma, which is tumas sheretz, that eats the more lenient type of kochim, which is meiser, and is only belav. But if tumas sheretz eats truma vala chamurois, is b'misa, we could have said umikalois ala chamuros b'misa. If then certainly chamuros nami ala kalois b'misa. Then certainly tumas meis that eats meiser without lekach nemu chamuros. That's why it talks about tumas meis in this pasuk. So we know clearly that eating meiser only gives you a lav, and eating truma gives you misa. The Mishnah also said, kol sheyesh lo matirin, anything that you may not consume, either the person or the mizbech, without a matir, without something being done like zrika or kmitz, or throwing the kmitza, right? Kol sheyesh lo matirin bein l'adam bein l'mizbech, whether it's to allow the human being to eat the meat, whether it allows you to put the emurma on the mizbeach, On all those things, chayav nalav mishum pigul. If you eat those items, you would get kares, al pigul. Ton Rabbana. The pasuk in Vayikra that teaches us pigul is ve'im he'achol ye'achel mipsar zevach shlamav v'yom hashlishi lo yiratzeh. So the pasuk is about shlomim. O eno mevi elakiyotze b'shlomim. So the Gemara has a havamina that perhaps the only types of korbanos where you would be chayv pigul is like shlomim. Ma shlomim yichodim nechol l'shnei yomim v'layla echad. Shlomims are eaten for 2 days and a night. Av kol nechol l'shnei yomim v'layla echad. So, in order to qualify for pigul, you would have to be able to eat for 2 days. And maybe the other korbanos, where you only eat for 1 day, there's no pigul by them. Nechol ram v'laylo like a chatas or an asham or a bechor minayin. Talmud Lomar mibsar zevach shlama. Any meat that's eaten by kohanim. So the kohanim do eat from the meat of the animal of a chatas and an asham and a bechor. Kol sheshirai necholim. Any time that you can eat the remainder after you do the zrikas adam, you're chayv pigul. Well, what about oilo she'ein shirei necholim? Korban olah is completely burnt on the mizbeach. There's no shirayim that's left over to eat. It's completely consumed. How do you know that there's a concept of pigul by that? Minayin Talmud Lomar zevach. Olah is a zevach. All type of zvachim. It means as long as you shecht an animal to do the korban, and you have to shecht an olah, so we include anything that has shchita. Okay. Minayin l'rabbos ha'oifos. Now, birds are not shechted. You did malika with a sharp thumbnail. You pierced the back of the neck of the bird. So how do you know that pigul applies by the oifos? And how do you know that pigul applies by v'hamanochos, which there's no shechita by them at all? And what about the oil that you have to use to apply on the big toe of the Kohen? Talmud Loimar, it says v'lo yichalalu. This is by eating kodshim when you're tummy. It says v'lo yichalalu shem kodshi asher he magdishim li v'asi, and then you bring noiser, which is any korban that's left beyond 24 hours, is a gzeira shava from eating kodshim betumas aguf to noiser, because it says chilul mituma. Because it says by a tame person eating kodshim, it says lo yichalalu, and then it says by noiser, the ochlav avono yisa ki es kodesh Hashem chilel. And now we bring a third halacha, the osi pigul oven minoiser. So you see, we start from eating kodshim with being tame, and it's connected to noiser through chilul. Noiser is connected to pigul because of exer shava oven minoiser. It says by noiser avono yisa, and it says by pigul avono tisa. Fine. It's called davar. Based on this gzeira shava, you've included everything now: birds, menachos, the like shemen. So lama nemar shlomim me'ato. Then why even mention that the index pasuk is talking about shlomim? Loimer l'cha, to teach you the following. Ma shlomim yichodim sheish l'matir bein lodim bein lemizbeach. A shlomim korban represents an example where there's something left, either for the human being to eat or to be makriv on the mizbeach. So, for example, by a shlomim, you shecht it, you receive the blood, you do zrika, the human being can eat the meat, and the emurim are put up on the mizbeach. There's both achilas adam and achilas mizbeach. Av kol sheyesh lo matirin, bein lo adam bein lo mizbeach. So as long as the korban has a matir to allow either something to be put on the mizbeach or for people to eat it, you're chayav and mishum pikul. So we're given examples. Ha'oila dama matir as psar lemizbeach va'oila kohanim. When you have a korban oila and you do zrika sadam, that permits the meat of the korban oila to be put on the mizbeach to be burned. The oila kohanim, and you give the hide to the kohanim. A bird ola sa'of, dama matir as psar lemizbeach. They're also, by applying the blood on the mizbeach, they're doing zrika, it permits you to put the meat on the mizbeach to be burned. Chatas sa'of, dama matir as psar lekohanim. A bird chatas, you do zrika sadam to allow the kohanim to eat the meat of that bird. More complicated, par man israfim usir man israfim. The par helam davar shel tzibur, which has to be burnt. Dama matir semiruim likorev. After you do the zrika sadam, that permits the emurim to be placed on the mizbeach to be burnt. And what's excluded? All of those that don't have matirim. They themselves are the matir. Motzani koimetz, right? The kmitza vesalavoina, the spice, baktoires. It's not a matir. The whole thing is put on the mizbeach. Minchas kohanim, it's completely burnt. Minchas kohen moshiach, minchas nesachim, the wine libation v'hadam. Reb Shimon Omer, mashlavim yichodim sheyesh bo amizbech achitzon chayav alav. The matir by shlomim, the dam is placed on the external mizbech. Av kol sheyesh al mizbech achitzon chamishim pikul. He now excludes another category from pikul if there's no dam that's thrown on the outside mizbech. Yotzu parman israfim, Mr. Israfim, hoil she'ein al mizbech achitzon kishlomim. Their blood is applied to the inner mizbech, not the outer mizbech, and sometimes to the parochas, sometimes to the kodesh kadoshim. In those cases, ein chayav alav mishum people. Okay, Omar Mar. We said we had a havamina initially that only korbanos is kayotze b'shlomim that are similar to shlomim. Now, mine ubchor shenechol l'shnei v'layla echad. The other korban would be a b'chor, which can also be eaten for 2 days. Now, b'may osi, how are you learning that? I b'mamet sinu, if you're just going to use a binyan av to say madoch b'shlomim it works, it'll work by b'chor, ikla mifrach. There is a logical way to uproot a binyan av. Malish shlomim, shein te'unin smichun esachim. A regular shlomim requires the owners to lean on the korban, requires wine libations. A bechor doesn't need that. Also, tnufas chaz v'shok. You have to wave the breast and the thigh, which also doesn't apply to bechor. So how would you have learned bechor? Ella, they would have learned it in a klal upratu klal. It says, Im ha'achol yachel mipsar zevach shlomo. Ha'achol yachel is like 2 klals. And the bisar zevach shlomim is the prat. So it's like we have a klal upratu klal. And therefore, this madach shlomim, it would work by bechor as well. For the Gemara, hani trei kloli desmichi adorininu, but it's not klal in the front, prat in the middle, klal in the end. You have 2 klolos and then the prat. That's not a problem, says Rava. Rava. If you have two generalities next to each other, hatil prat, take the detail that's written afterwards. You can still do a klal prat. Okay. Then the Gemara tried to say also that the chiddush would be achani mar beloik shemen shel mitzvah. There also after applying the oil, the shiraim are eaten by the kohanim. The hamani. Reb Meir the Tanya. Loik shemen shel mitzvah. Chayav lo mishum pigul. Div Reb Meir. An asham is brought. If the asham that was shechted with a machshav chutz lizmano, the loik shemen comes with it. So if you eat from the loik shemen, you're going to be chayiv kores for pigul. Well, ema seifa. Umotzi ani es minchas nesachim. In the brisa that we learned on the other page, we said we will exclude the wine libations, which are brought with the korban, with an animal korban. The hadam, they themselves are matir, and minchas nesachim are completely offered. Well, that's also Rabbana. They argue with Rav Meir, the Tanya. Niske behema, wine libations of an animal. Chayavna le'em mishum pigul. B'nei shedam hazevach matir li korev. It's the application of blood of the korban that allows you to pour the wine, div Rav Meir. By the wine libations, you didn't have to bring it right away. You had 10 days to bring it. So it's not the dam hazevach, let's matir them. Reb Meir makes a point to say, I only said that you're going to be chayv pigul for the nesachim, those that are brought with the zevach. Comes out that the brisa has two opposite conclusions, one Reb Meir, one Chachamim. So Am Rav Yossi Hamani Rebbe, he holds like the Chachamim that the minchas nesachim is not what allows you to pour the wine libations is not the dam, and therefore there's no steer to the log hashemen. The Omar loik shemen shel mitzayra, he holds it's not the zrikas adam of the asham that's matirid elamat noisav. You also throw some of the shemen lifnei Hashem. That's sharulei. That permits the remaining oil to be eaten by the kohanim. Umid matnois of sharulei, and the various applications of the shemen is what allows the shemen to be eaten. Matnois of mafaglilei. Then you can have pigul in those things that you give gifts in. The Tanya, where do we see this? Loik shemen shel mitzar moyalim boy. If you have benefit from some of the oil that is applied to the mitzvah, you're chayv mila. Until Achi Yizrak Adam. Once you do Zrikas Adam of the Osham, then the Kohanim can benefit from the Shem. There's no Mi'ila. Nizrak Adam, Lo Nanin. According to Chachamim, you still have to apply the Shemen on the Behoinos of the Mitzvah, but Velo Moyalin. But Rebbe Yomer Moyalin Achiyitin Matnoisav. The meal extends until you actually apply all the applications of the shemen. And the applications permit the remaining shemen to be eaten by the kohanim. Vishavin, Rebbe v'chachamim agree, she'asr b'achila ad she'yitin matan sheva, you have to apply 7 applications lifnei Hashem, and matan b'hoinos, and you have to place it on the big toe of the.
If you get applesauce again, don't get the organic, get the regular one.
Johnny,
That's not as
Johnny.
good.
Johnny, put it on mute. Thank you. Amrua kamei to Rav Yirmiyah. This sugya was taught in front of Rav Yirmiyah. Omar Gavar Rabba Rav Yosef Lemek Yavnei. How could Rav Yosef say such a thing? Hare log bifnei atzmo. The log shemen can be brought by the mitzvah even after his korban. The application of the shemen is what allows the kohanim to eat from it. Yet lo mafaglin lay, yet there's no pigul by the log shemen to Tanya. Log shemen shemen tzoira chayav alav mishum pigul and neshadam matir lebaoin is div Rav Meir. He holds that there's another matir that allows you to eat the shemen, which is the application of the blood of the yasham. Armor lo Rav Meir, but they responded v'alo adam maybe Hashem ashav v'lo mikan vasar yomim. The mitzvah can bring the yasham today. He can bring the log shemen until 10 days after. So it's not the dam. He also says, I agree that there's only pigul if the loik shemen is brought at the same time. But it's not the gifts of the shemen that it's the dam ha'osham. You have to remove the wine libations that of the list where there's no pigul. So there's no steer in Rav Meir. However, you don't have to remove it. V'tana log habai mashemen, that it works for Rav Meir when you actually bring the log along with the korban. When you bring the wine libations the same day as the korban, it also works. But he could say that there's no pigul later on by the wine libations that are brought by themselves, and the log shemen that's brought by itself. Then chatas ha'ov, we said a bird chatas, dam matters k'shar l'kohanim. The application of the blood of a chatas ha'ov allows the kohanim to eat the meat. Menuah nemili. How do you know this? The Tana Levi. It says, "V'zeh elecha mikodesh hakodashim min ha'esh." This is a gift to the kohanim called korbanom, that they're allowed to eat from every korban, including chatas and enosham. Asher yashivu li kodesh kodeshim l'cha hu l'vanech. Now, what does all of this come to teach us? Kol korbanom l'rabbis loik shemen shematzor. That after the various avodot are done with the shemen, the kohanim can eat the oil. Now, why would I need a special pasuk? It says only those things that are put on the fire. The high, lav moiser min ha'eshu. The shemen has nothing to do with eish. The kamash v'lon, that still the kohanim get it. The brisa continues. L'chol minchasam. L'rabbos minchas oimer minchas haknois. Right? On the second day of Pesach, they would bring a mincha of barley to be matir chodosh. That's the minchas ha'omer. And minchas haknos, the mincha that the sota woman brings. Now, why would I think that I need a pasuk for that? It says, "V'achlu otam asher kupar bahem." This pasuk of what the kohanim are allowed to eat from the kotshim says they eat from korbanos that give atonement. Well, I would have thought minchas ha'omer lahatir. Minchas ha'omer is not for atonement. It comes to be matir the chodosh asya. Minchas knos labar oven kasya. The mincha of the sota woman comes to tell us whether or not she committed an aver or not. It's not kapora. Kamash malon that this pasuk, the call is marbe, even the minchas ha'omer and the minchas knos that they can eat from that. Ulokol chatosam, the rabbi is chatas ha'of, a bird chatas. Now, why would I think that we know that they can eat a regular chatas? Why would it be different chatas ha'of? Oh, sakadai in the velahi. Remember, you don't shech the bird; you cut it from the back of its neck with your thumbnail. So normally, if you did that outside the base of Mikdash, it would be nevela. It's on the base of Mikdash that we allow it. But I would have thought that the kohanim can't eat it. We're told that they can eat it as well. L'chol ashamam. Well, we've already been told you can eat all korbanos. Why do I need a special pasuk for l'chol ashamam? L'rabbos asham nazir. when a Nazir becomes Tameh, he has to bring an Asham as part of his purification. The Asham Mitzorah, in order for the Mitzorah to become Tahor, he has to bring an Asham as well. Now, why would I not have assumed that the Kohanim can eat the meat of these Ashamas? Because there's no atonement here. The Asham Nazir is now Machshir to start his Naziris again. The Asham Mitzorah is Machshir to eat Kotshim. And it said again, maybe it's only the only meat that the Kohanim can eat is one that achieves kapara, kamash malan. That no. Now, Asham Mitzorah, why would he have a havamina that you can't eat it? Ba'adeksiv. It says clearly that the Kohanim eat it. Ella l'rabas Asham Nazir ka Asham Mitzorah. That the Asham Nazir is included like the Asham Mitzorah. Then it says Asher Yashivu. Ze Gezel Ager. Somebody steals from a ger who has no Yorshim because he has no relatives. Eventually, you have to give it to the Kohanim, the Karen and the Chomesh. That's another gift given to Kohanim. L'chahu shalchayiyeh afilu kadish poseish. It becomes personal property of the Kohanim, even to be makadish and isha. Then we said that the parim anisrafim, the parim that are burnt, like the parhelim davar shel tzibur, where the blood is applied only on the inner mizbeach. So the first Tana said that you do create pigul, but Rab Shimon says there's no pigul because none of the blood of the parim anisrafim are applied to the external mizbeach, and since the whole din of pigul was learned from a shlamim, where the blood application is on the outside mizbeach, so it doesn't apply to parim anisrafim. Tanya, Rabbi Yezer Oimer Mishum Rav Yossi Aglili. It's more complicated in the third sheet. Pigel bedover anasa b'chutz, pigel. If in doing the element of the parim anisrafim, he had in mind chutz's mano in an act that is done in the azara, not in the heichal, then it does create pigel. Bedover nasa bifnim. If he had a chutz's mano machshava during an action that he does either in the heichal or the kodesh kodeshim, lo pigel. Now, what's the example? Ketza. Hayomi bachutz. They were shechting the par on Israfim outside. V'omareni shoichet lahazuz midam l'mochar. I am shechting and have in mind to do the sprinkling tomorrow in the heichal. Lo pigel. Because machshava b'chutz b'davar nasa b'fnim. Lo pigel. If when he's outside, he has in mind to do something inside, there's no pigel. At Hayomi Bifnim, he was inside the Heichal doing the Hazah, doing the sprinkling. V'omareni mazeh, amanas lahaktir emurim v'lishpoch shiraim l'machar. I'm going to burn the intestines on the mizbech, the outside mizbech, or to pour the leftover blood on the yesod tomorrow, lo pigel, because shemachshav b'fnim b'dover nasa b'chutz. So that doesn't work either. Now here's where it does work. Hayomed bachutz, if he was outside Nazor when he was shechting the parim anisrafim. V'omar areni shoichet lishpoch shiraim l'machar. I'm shechting with the idea that I'm going to pour the remainder on the yesod of the mizbech hachitzon. So he was doing an action that normally is done outside, and he's thinking about an action that is also normally done outside. Or lahakter emurim l'machar, or to put the intestines tomorrow when you're supposed to do it today. Pigel. Shemachshava b'chutz b'davar nasa b'chutz. His machshava was outside, and it was on an act that was outside. Amir Yeshua ben Levi Mikra. Where's the pasuk that teaches this? So the pasuk talks about applying the emurim of the parkoy and Moshiach on the mizbeach. It says kasher yuram mishor zevach hashlamim. The way you have elevated the emurim from the Zevach Hashlomim. V'chimala madam mishor Zevach Hashlomim me'ata. Ela meikish parkoin Mashiach l'shor Zevach Hashlomim. The parkoin Mashiach is compared to a regular Zevach Shlomim of a shor. Ma shor Zevach Hashlomim. There's no pigel. Achi u'maisav machshavosav amizbech hachitzon. The action and the thinking of what you're going to do has to apply to the Mizbech HaChitzon. Av Parkoin Moshiach, there's no pigel, Achi Machshavosav u'maisav al Mizbech HaChitzon. And on Rav Nachman, Am Rav Avu, Am Rav Aloch, Rav Lozer, Shamar Mishum Hadis. Okay.
Oh, yeah.